I'm here today with James Rose from Content Snare. Say hello, James.
Hey, Simon, it's good to be here.
Good morning, James. And today we're going to be looking at how you can use Content Snare to get information from your clients on time, every time. Let's get started. So without further ado, I am going to be quiet. And James, if you could whack your camera on. And hello,
Hey.
James. James is in Australia as well, just in case anybody doesn't know. They also have the moustache thing going on as well. Hence, we're both queued up today with moustache. But anyway, James is in Australia, so it's evening for James. So if he sort of nods off a little bit, I might just have to kick him over the internet as well. But anyway, without further ado, let me give James a warm virtual round of applause and take it away, James.
Hey, Simon. Thanks for having me. I just realized I made a tea, decaf, because it is late here and I'm not going to have a chance to drink it, am I? Because I'm going to be talking the whole time. And thank you for introducing me and saying that it's Movember. I just like to tell people during this month every year that this is not normally what I look like, because it's one of those months where you walk past a mirror and kind of like a little bit shocked every time I see it, because I absolutely hate seeing myself with a mustache. Just gonna let you guys know this is not normally me. Right, so I'm James from Content Snare. Now, what I'm talking about today is the process of collecting and gathering information from your clients. So, in the accounting and bookkeeping industry, it's typically, client onboarding, or monthly queries, and just any general information throughout the year, and then end of year tax documentation, whatever you need to actually complete their, end of year information. Now, you might be wondering why it's called Content Snare and not like Information Snare or something. So we actually started in the web design digital agency space. That's what our product was made to do, to help people collect content for websites. And over time, we kind of just discovered accountants and bookkeepers were signing up all on their own. It happened organically. And then to the point where we realized there was obviously something there. So now it's actually become our biggest focus, to create a process or create a product that helps accountants create a better information gathering process that saves a lot of time. And I'm sure you're all familiar with how much of a pain this can be, but I'm going to dig into it now. And yeah, as Simon said, absolutely happy to be interrupted with any questions at any time, because obviously I actually prefer to get those questions on the fly rather than waiting till the end, because then it's relevant while we're still talking about it. So yeah, let's dig into it. So gathering information from clients, I want to show you guys how to avoid the back and forth email headache of collecting information from clients. It's more than just an email headache. It's a cost of time and money and all sorts of things. Let's get into that. So what happens when you've got no process in place to get information from clients? Like the classic solution here that everyone kind of just defaults to, because, until this point, maybe you haven't been aware that there is a solution. When you need information from clients, you just send off an email and say, hey, we need these 10 documents and these 5 questions answered. The problem with this is you end up with these never ending email trails that just become a huge mess. You're actually pretty lucky if you manage to keep it in one email trail. A lot of times it can devolve into several email trails from different people in the company, even getting different attachments and different bits of information from everyone, and they'll say they've sent something already, and you go back through this huge email trail and find that it's not there. Pretty standard problem. It's and this isn't just accountants like to deal with this. It's pretty much anyone who has deals with clients has some level of this problem, where clients are just, I don't know, there's a disconnect between what they think they've sent you and what you've actually received. So the next, the collaboration problem, same thing. Like if you're dealing with lots and lots of different people, it becomes a mess really quickly. And, the classic one is if they attach, say, 5, 6 attachments to an email, and you've got to tell them that one of those is wrong. Then you've spun off another email for when they reply to that one. And you have to kind of remember that the third file that they attached in that email is not correct anymore. And it's supplied 2 emails later. And you've got to be on top of all of this. So the collaboration of like making sure everything's the latest version can get pretty messy. Spoken about attachments, but the further issue there is often, file size issues. A lot of people's email won't let them send files over a certain size, which is always a problem. And then there's also the questions of security as well, like sending this stuff over email, which I know is a really big concern for accountants. And another downside is always underutilized and frustrated staff. Like, no accountant wants to be chasing clients for information. I don't think there's a single person in the world that enjoys chasing clients. And you've got much better skill sets, much more valuable skill sets than chasing clients. So yeah, no one wants to be doing it, and obviously wasted time and money. I speak to a lot of accountants actually about the issue, and this is kind of the stuff we say that I've heard them say. It's just like the existing processes are a mess, and without documentation from their clients, they get stuck, and they're always having to go repeatedly back and forth to clients. But I know you guys understand this because you're living this process every day. So it's just, I guess, to reinforce how much of a problem it is for people. So all in all, though, this kind of thing can be fixed with a process, and for the most part, a lot of people are just never even aware there are other options out there other than just sending an email to collect information from clients. But the right process, once you got it in place, it increases profitability because you're not wasting time, valuable labor time chasing clients, keeps your stuff moving, keeps your clients moving, and most of all, it looks really professional when you've got a dialed in process, and it makes clients happy. Now, when you're creating a process for this, because Content Snare is definitely not the only way you can collect information from clients. The key stuff when you're putting in a process is, number one, it's got to be insanely easy for clients. This is by far the number one thing, because anything that's not easy will just get delayed. They put it in the too hard pile. If they're sitting on an email from you that says, they need these 10 documents, they're just going to leave it there, and it's probably going to get buried. Most people aren't very good at clearing their inbox. So the way to make it easy for clients is to make it some kind of like a simple checklist style thing where they can go through one item at a time and just complete it. It's got to be really simple for them to input. So no like digging through folders and trying to upload files to the right place in some kind of client portal or storage, and just no barriers. So a lot of systems I've seen, or a lot of people have tried to solve this process in the past by creating a way, like a portal where clients got to log in and remember passwords and all this kind of thing. And I know you've experienced it, but clients just aren't very good at remembering passwords. So just absolutely no barriers. Another thing is you need a single source of truth. So there's got to be one place where you and your clients are operating. So that avoids the things like them saying they provided something that they haven't. You and them both need to be able to look at something and say, hey, like that file's missing. And a place where you've got unified communication. So rather than, some people allow their clients to send messages, text messages or whatever, with some answers, email, maybe there's a spreadsheet involved. Once you've got all these different places where information is, and there can be comments on spreadsheets, there can be text messages, there can be emails, it just becomes a mess. So all of this back and forth has got to happen in one place if you want to streamline this properly. So I'm just going to jump in now and show you what Content Snare looks like. So this is when you have first created an account, you won't obviously see these here. This would be blank. And essentially the way it works is we're going to create an information request for our client. So this would be blank. We'd come up and create our very first request. Now, if any of you guys have used a forms tool before, so something like Typeform or SurveyMonkey, any of these like classic forms tools, Content Snare works a lot like that. The main difference is that it's a sort of living and breathing thing that as they type information in, it's all saved automatically on the fly. They don't need to remember to, they don't have to complete it all in one go like they do with a form, and they can just come back at any time. Like the automatic reminder will come out from Content Snare. They'll be able to click that link and they jump straight back in and continue where they left off. But the process of building an information request is really similar to a form. So this page here is where we choose a template. So obviously we don't want to start from scratch every time. We've got a bunch of accounting and bookkeeping templates here. Now, I know many of you guys are from the UK, and we're currently working on our UK-based templates, but we've got some client onboarding ones for accountants. So this is like a business client. This is an individual client in Australia. I imagine there's quite a lot of overlap here, maybe just some differences in terms, what, like, in other words, in the US, you've got, say, C Corps and LLCs. In Australia, we've got proprietary limited, and in the UK, it's probably just different terminology in what you're going to use. So you can probably actually start with one of these existing accounting templates. There's some bookkeeping ones there, and then the last four are actually templates for the individual, or for the tax return documentation at the end of the year. Again, some geared towards businesses, some geared towards individuals, and the different countries. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and pick this client onboarding for Australia. We get a bit of a preview here of what it's going to look like to our client. But for now, I'm just going to skip straight through and show you what the building process is like. So, the first time you've ever used this, you're probably going to use one of our templates, modify it a little bit, create your own form. And what I should have shown you there is,
James. Yeah, it's I've got a question. So
yeah, sure.
Can you, those templates that are there, can you copy those as a basis for your new template? Is that where you're now going?
Yeah, I just realized that's what I forgot to say. So, so basically, if I go back to creating a new request, you can see this section here is my custom template. So this is just some random one that I created earlier. Now, if you modify one of these ones and save it as your own template, it'll show up here right at the top. A lot of accountants, depends on your process, but for end of year stuff, a lot of accountants will actually create a template specially for each of their clients. So if you've got a client with specialized needs, maybe there's just 5 or 6 different questions that you need to ask them every year or even every month. You create a special template just for that client, and then you can just use this search bar to search for the client's name and get that template ready to go to send to them. But jumping back into here, so we've just created our first request. We've picked that onboarding template. So we give the request a name, like maybe it's Acme is the company and it's their onboarding. We don't need any of this information. And then this request instructions, it's actually one of the most important parts, I think, of the entire app. This is the first thing your client will see. It looks like, I'll show you what this looks like exactly to them later, but this is where you're just crafting the message that they're going to see when they first come in. We sometimes call it a welcome message. This is really important because obviously it's the first thing they see. So it's a really big contributor to their overall experience. If you can put your logo in here, you can put little videos. So we've got a little video there that just shows people how to use this Content Snare for the first time. Highly recommend you creating your own, 1-2 minute video. That's all it's got to be. And you can embed YouTube, Vimeo, or Loom directly in here. And put in images so you can drop your logo in there just so they know they're in the right place. And then a little bit of instructions on how they actually use the system. Just a good, bit of an introduction, who you are, what this is for, and how to use the system. Now, this is built in. These instructions are there by default, so you can just modify those. But a lot of people just completely delete these and write them themselves, or maybe a lot of people just modify them as well. So totally up to you. Next stage is building the request. So laying out all the different information we need from our client. So this is the part that's kind of like building a form. The main difference between this and building a form is that we have a bit more structure. So we've got a page here and a section within that page. So this page has only got one section. It's just a very basic page. We're asking for personal information, but their full name, their address, their contact number, blah, blah, blah. Really simple stuff. We might have some company information. So here we're asking for a company name and whatever. And then further down, since this is the first time we're working with them, we might get them to describe their business and what kind of entity they are, etc. So these are all just like text-based questions. If we jump further down, do we have, these are all text-based ones as well, but let's jump to the documentation. So this is where we're asking for files. Now, each one of these I guess I don't want to skip through all of this so fast. There's a lot of features I can go through here, but this one has multiple files turned on. So obviously, if you are asking for, say, like this one here, recent tax returns or bank statements, it's pretty likely you're going to need several files from your client at once. So you can turn on multi-answer. If you only need one file, you just turn multi-answer off. One thing I'll just quickly touch on that I won't actually show the setup for are conditions. So you can actually show or hide questions. If I just turn this on, you can say only show this question based on a previous answer that they have submitted. So a lot of people use this workflow to create a sort of self-guided onboarding flow. So they can say, if they tick a box to say they have staff, you might ask them some questions about payroll, but if they say no, you have a question that says, do you have staff? Yes or no. They say no, you just don't show that question, right? So all kinds of stuff like that. Like trading names are a big one. So, here's your business name. Do you have a trading name? Yes. Show a question to say, what's your trading name? Just a really easy way to kind of flow, just to show or hide questions that are relevant for your clients. Yes, Simon.
James, yeah, I've got a question from Chris. Chris has asked, can you populate the form with the information you already know before you send it to the client?
Yeah, so right now, I can show you how to do that in a minute. Basically, you finalize it and you publish it and then just fill it out as if you were a client. However, we are working on a feature where this will be pre-populated directly in here. It's just not there yet, but that is coming. One thing I haven't shown is that it, Simon? Is there no?
Yeah, that was it. So basically, you set the template up, you set the form up, and then once you've set it up, you can go in as though you're the client and add in any information that you've already got to save the client doing it, basically.
Yeah, and this is and this is a really big request from accountants. So we're very aware of this because I understand that, especially at the end of the year, you might want to give them everything that you've already got and just say, is any of this different than last year? So we're very aware of that. So right now, you can duplicate requests, and so you could kind of duplicate last year's and do it that way. But
So what one of the examples that I instantly springs to mind is we're having employment income in the UK. So we might be writing to the client with part of the tax return and say, can you tell us what employment income you've got? And we already know about this employment income from the client that we already look after, but we just need to check that they've not got any employment income that we don't know about, but we don't want to look stupid in that we already know about some of it. If that does that make sense?
Yeah. So I can tell you what some people do is use these instructions areas. And actually, thank you for bringing this up, saying this, because it just jogged my memory of how important these instruction areas are. So obviously, if you're asking for a name, someone's name, you don't really need to give them any instructions on how to type in their name. However, if you're asking for, company constitution, I'm not sure if you guys call it the same thing in the UK, but, it's really good to describe what it is that you need, especially to a lay person who might not know what you're talking about. So, and this will actually come out over time. As you request information from clients, you'll notice you get the same questions and the same spots, and that can actually feed back into these instructions, because obviously, and if you're getting the same question lots and lots, you want to improve, like make it easier for future clients. You just roll the information you get back into here, and in here you can also attach videos. So, if you need your client to log into some government system and download something and put it here, you can have a little video there showing them how to do it, and you'll see what this looks like to your clients soon. So you can provide a lot of guidance on any individual question just to show them exactly what they need to do to answer it properly the first time. So you can put images in there, it's like screenshots, you can put videos, but you can also upload attachments. So that's what I was getting to here. So in Australia, I spoke to a guy doing some individual tax returns recently, because we've just come through tax period here. And they have a pre-filled report that comes from the tax body, and he actually attaches it to the very first question in there. It's like, please download this, and it might just be a checkbox to say, so you could turn this, if I add a new question down here, we make it a checkbox, and then we can just say download this file and tick the box when you're done, and then you can actually just attach a file directly into here. And so what he says in instructions is, please refer to this document as you go through the rest of the questions and just let me know if anything on here is incorrect, basically. So you can attach files if you do have any like pre-filled reports that you want to provide as well.
Thank you. Just I've got another question as well, James, and just to reiterate the importance of those instructions. We never realized it, and just recently we have a thing in the UK about authentication code. So we request the code from the revenue send it to the client then give us the code, and we have to put it in the website in order to confirm that the client has authorized us. And we were struggling to get those codes from the client, and all we did basically was email the client what that looked like, so a picture of it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's what they mean, and all of a sudden they've all started coming in. So those instructions are really, really important. So thank you for that, James. And then Neil's asked, there is a logic jump feature in Typeform. Is Snare as sophisticated? I think you've shown us that since Neil asked the question.
So I'll come back to that in a second. But what did you say with the files? There was some. Oh yeah, you cannot underestimate how important visual instructions are, because you're dealing with people that don't know your industry. They don't have the same knowledge, like just such sector specific knowledge that you do. And it's really easy to forget how much other people don't know. It's the opposite of the Dunning-Kruger, is the curse of knowledge. Basically, it's like you know so much that you forget how little other people know.
Yeah, it's like sometimes we ask for a PAYE coding notice or a P2 or an SA 302 and all those sorts. It's just I know instantly. Yeah. I can picture what they look like, but to a layperson, they've got absolutely no idea. So
100%, yeah. And to get to the logic jump, so yeah, conditional logic is essentially a replacement for that. I much prefer conditional logic. So when we were planning this feature out, we looked at, I've been using forms tools for years, and I much prefer conditional logic because it gives you more granular control. So you can show or hide different questions based on their answers, rather than saying, okay, at this point, now we have to jump over to this section. Because the problem is, if you want them to answer 2 specific questions, you've got to get them to jump over there and then to jump back to here, which to me is a pain. I'd rather just show or hide the questions. Maybe it's just the way my brain works, but I think this is a lot more flexible this way. But you can generally achieve the same sort of thing.
Thank you, James.
Question? Yeah. And one thing there, by the way, these are all the different bits of information you can request. So we can just simple text things, images or files. Files are probably more important for you guys. All of these ones, when I'm building a form, it's pretty much always one of these 2. So like a large text field, a small text field, files, and maybe checkboxes or radios for clients to just choose options, basically. That's pretty much everything I end up using, but the other stuff is there if you need it. So I'm going to jump ahead and publish this now. Skip the preview because you're about to see what this looks like anyway. We get to the publish screen, and this is where we choose what client it's going to get sent to. And then just a few options. So we give it a due date, and you can see these are all the emails going to go out to our client. You can customize how many emails are going out, when they're going out, and the information that's in those emails. So we look at this one, it's going to say, hi, client name, here's the due date. Here's a PIN code. If you put a PIN code on the request, I'll get to that in a second. But you can also, I'll show you later once we get to the reminders section, how much you really can customize these. But yeah, you can set as many emails as you like. And recently we added SMS as a feature as well. So you can, obviously, if you've got clients that aren't business clients, it's like individuals especially aren't going to be as responsive to email. So it makes sense to send them SMS reminders as well. And those are included in the plan, a certain amount of credits per month. All right. So the last few things. Yes, Simon?
Yeah, and you might be getting to this as well, but Marianne's asked, what's the security on the file sharing?
All right. Yeah, pretty well. I'm getting to that now.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, shut up.
So you've got varying levels of security here. So it depends on your process, what you're collecting, how secure you want it to be. By default, it's set to allow a share. So when the email goes out, there's a link in the email. They click it, they're into the system. Now that link is basically not guessable with current computing power in like a decade. It's a really, really long link, which I'll show you in a minute. The risk there is that someone, if someone gets access, like fishes there and gets their access to their email and gets that link, then they can get into the request. But that's only while it's still open. If you close the request, so if you're doing an onboarding form, it's probably only going to be open for a couple of weeks, whatever. Once they finish everything, you close it. That link's dead for the client from then on. So there's only that little window there. So it depends. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't really provide advice on this. It depends where you are and what kind of information you're collecting. So if there's no sensitive data in there, that's fine. With the next level up is to add a PIN code onto it. So you can create a PIN code that you either send to the client in the email. So that's obviously kind of defeats the purpose if you're worried about them accessing the email. But you modify your email template so it doesn't say the PIN code, and you could call the client with the PIN code, or you could send them an SMS with that. So you could create a reminder schedule that says when this is published, we send an email with the link and says check your SMS for the code, and then we send the code via mobile or SMS. And finally, if you just turn that one off, it actually requires them to create a full login. So username and password, and obviously they know the password at that point. So these are various levels of how easy it is for your client. I was talking before about not having barriers, and obviously these different levels are more and more barriers. So it's up to you. You'll have to consult with whatever the law is.
Yeah, it ultimately depends on how sensitive the information is. If it's public information anyway, or the majority of it, like companies' house numbers and stuff like that, then you don't need anything. But if you want to put full password protect and whatnot on because it's tax return information and whatnot, you can, by the sounds of it. So
yeah, that's right. So just something I will show you guys, if you're interested, you can go to contentsnare.com. I think it's in the footer there. You can go to the security page, and we detail a little bit about how our security actually works. Obviously, we don't give away the farm because that would reduce the security by telling people how it works. So we just talk about the general concepts that we follow. And, this is pretty much, industry standard stuff. So we encrypt HTTPS, it's encrypted in transit, encrypted at rest, firewalls, blah, 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 proper authentication. We do not have SOC 2 or ISO 27001 yet. We will work on that. However, that's really just a tick box to say we've done all these things.
Thank you. I've got a follow-up question from Simon based on the link expiring. So when the link expires, does the information still stay available for us? And if so, for how long?
Yes, as long as you want it to. So I guess I can get into that process towards the end. But so you've got two ways that you finish a request. You can either archive it or you can mark it as complete. Archiving just kind of hides it from your own view. So that's only really when you don't need it anymore. Or you can mark it as complete, which shuts down the link for the client, but it still sits there in your dashboard if you want it. You can filter them out by what status they're in, whether they're currently active or completed. That's the idea, is once they've put everything in, you mark it as complete, and then you've still got access to that, and you've got access for it as long as you want, until you delete it. Basically, the way we limit accounts, which we can get into the pricing later, is number of currently active requests. So a completed one doesn't count, or an archive one doesn't count, and file storage. So basically, you get to a point where you might have too many files stored in contentsnare, and you go through and delete some. To be honest, most people do not use contentsnare as a permanent data store. It's very much transient. So they push the files into other systems, whatever, if you're using SharePoint or something, and then that's where it lives. And then you may delete it out of contentsnare. You might leave it there for a year or two. It's totally up to you. You just remove them when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, cool. So I'll turn this back on here, and I'll just go ahead and publish this. I think this is coming to me, so then I can show you what their email actually looks like. Normally I turn this off when I'm doing demos because otherwise I'd be spamming the hell out of myself every time I did a test. So just now we've got to wait for the email to come through. At least that way you can see exactly what it looks like. This can vary. The receiving time can depend on how I just congested everything is at the time. Sometimes they're instant. Sometimes they can take a couple of minutes. If it doesn't come through in the next 20 seconds, I might just move on. We'll find you an old email. Strange that it hasn't come through yet. Maybe it's I feel like there might be an issue with that email address that I've used because this is a demo account. Let's have a look. I'll actually just dig up an email. Sorry, that's very unprofessional of me. Yeah, definitely this is not going to come through to me, but come on. All right, so here's it. Oh no, I've got a really, sorry about this. I'll just hopefully when it comes through later, or I can find one. All right, here we go. Oh, look, I'll just come back to this later. Sorry. I'll be able to find like, it basically just looks like this, but I'll show you exactly what it looks like in my inbox later. But so if we copy that link to the clipboard, they'd get that initial email from us to say, hey, we need some information, and they would be directed straight to here, and they'd have that pin code there, 8721. They type that in, it loads, and they're straight in. So obviously you didn't have the pin code, that would come directly here. So this is where I was talking about that initial screen and how important it is, because they could see your logo might be sitting right here, and then some basic instructions, a video, so they can see your face. They know they're in the right spot then. And there's only ever one thing on the screen at a time. Actually, that email has just come through. It took a little bit longer than I expected, but this is what it looks like here. So you do have control a little bit over this. Like, it's very, very basic styling on purpose. So that you can see the pin codes there, but you can control all of this. And yeah, so if they click that, they'd be straight in there. Was it 8721? Test my memory. Yeah, cool. So that's what the experience is like when they receive one of those emails. But yeah, so as I was talking about, the system's got to be really, really easy for clients, and so much research and work goes into making this interface the way it is, and dead simple for clients. So there's only one thing really to concentrate on at a time. So they read the instructions, they click the button, they type in their name, they click the button. And so this is really good to have. That's why in those initial instructions, we tell them to make sure they click submit for review on every button, on every question, and try to get that progress bar to 100%. We are in the process of redesigning this. It's going to look a little bit more like a checklist. So these will be like little circles with a tick or a cross in them, that kind of thing, just to make it a little bit easier. But as they go through, they can type in information, hit submit. If they're not ready to submit something yet, they can just continue. Now, all of this is actually saved on the fly, right? If I close that window now, go back to here, copy that link again, and so they get the next reminder email in a month's time, or sorry, a few days' time. Oh God, test my memory again. That information that they typed in is still there, right? Even if they didn't, what I didn't show you there, they don't even have to click save. If they start typing into one of these boxes, you can see up here, it's saving and saved. That's it. So there's basically very little chance for any information to get lost, which is a big problem when you're using forms or whatever. Like, if someone's trying to fill out a form, like a type form, all in one go, they get halfway through, they get called away and close that window. That information's gone. I think some of these forms tools have a save and continue option, but it's actually stored in the browser, which means if they then see a reminder on their mobile phone, click that link, it's not there because it's not the same browser that's on their phone. So with ours, it's all stored against with Content Snare, it's stored against their records. So no matter what device they use, they come back in later, that information is still going to be there. So yeah, I mean, they continue through, they can navigate around like this. They can see they've done 0 out of 11 here, but if we want to jump down to documentation, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to see if I've got any files that I can throw into here just to sort of show you. I mean, I've got a random CSV here, but they can drag and drop, or they can, click here to choose files from their file system. But in this case, because it's a multi-file system, we can, what else have I got? Just a random, files I'm dumping in, but they can, they can just keep uploading things. Let's see if I've got whatever. So it just works pretty seamlessly. Again, like, these are things we test the hell out of to make sure they're always working and really easy for the client. And then when they're done, they just click submit and move on to the next question. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like from the client's perspective. I mean, the idea for them is they just want to get everything completed. There is an option when they get to the end of a page, so if they, like for this personal information, for example, like let's say they started typing in phone numbers and their email address, they don't submit those individually. When they get to the end, they're prompted to submit, and it'll, mark that whole page as done. So the idea being, eventually at the end, they finished everything. However, sometimes they might run into trouble. So like if we're looking at this, they don't know what a constitution is. They can click here and go, I don't know what a constitution is. I don't know for now. And they can leave that comment there, and then you'll obviously get a notification to come back in and answer their questions. And that's what I was saying. You can feed back this stuff back in to your process later on if you're getting the same questions. We hear a lot of people saying this. They get the same questions on the things they've asked clients to upload, and then it helps them actually adjust their process and update these instructions here. So that's the instructions there I was sort of talking about. I don't think there's any ones with videos or images in here, but that's, imagine as your client goes through, they've got the question name, they've got a little video, a little bit of text and a little video showing them what to do, and then the place where they answer it. And that's all it's on screen at one time, like just that one question. And when they're done with it, they move on. This might seem overly simplistic, but I can tell you this has made astronomical differences to our response rates. So yeah, it's just makes it so much easier for clients, and easy things tend to get done. So let's say, they've gone through and completed all of this. I'll jump back over into what it looks like on your side of things now. We can see this is currently pink and purple because the client has submitted something. These white ones, it just means that we're still waiting on the client. If we go in and review their answers, this will actually go back to white. And then the next time the client submits something, it'll be, and it's ready for us to check, it'll go back into, float towards the top and go into this color. So we review that. This is now viewing it as you, not your client. Looks much the same. There's just a few extra controls here, right? So for each question, you can either approve or reject it. So approving just locks it in, so our client can't make any more changes to it. This isn't an address, so we're probably going to say, hey, that's not even real. That's not even a real address. And we reject that. They get a message just to say, hey, we need some information changed. Maybe I'll get that email come through as well. If it comes through, I will show it up. But yeah, they just get an email that says, hey, we need something changed in your request. And they get a link, and it'll actually bring them directly back to this question. And they'll be able to see your message here and here. Yes, it's replicated, but these things, you just want to make it easy for a client because, for example, if they're on mobile, they can't necessarily see this comments panel unless they manually open it because there's no room for it on a mobile. So that's why we have it here as well, just so there's basically no way they can miss it. So yeah, then they would complete it and submit it again. Oh, sorry, I'm still on the back end here on your side, but yeah, the client, if I just reload this page for your client, I mean, they see it looks almost exactly the same, but they can see here that there's your message and whatever. So that's the rejection system, which is one of our most popular features because it saves having to go back and forth over one item in each email. Like if there's one item in the email they send you that's wrong, then you have to go back and forward, spin off another thread. So that saves that happening. Yeah, so then you would continue through, approve things as you go. You don't have to necessarily do them all individually. You can just hit this button to approve everything. Like if you just, scroll through and you can see they've submitted that, you might just want to approve everything that they've submitted in one go, which is what that button does. Brand new feature that was added today. So let's hope there's no bugs in this, and I'm going to show them live talking to you guys. We just added this ability to approve individual files. And this was a really big feature request among accountants and lawyers because they're often requesting lots of files in one go. So the idea here is, like, let's say they've uploaded these bank statements. Let's say these are bank statements and one of them's wrong. You could just go through, mark those ones as all okay, and then reject just that single one. This is the wrong month. So that's really helpful if you want to I guess it just means, because normally before you would have to kind of explain which file was wrong in the comments here. But now you can specifically say that one needs to be replaced, and then they can come back and replace it on their end. So that's brand new feature that's been requested quite a lot. Finally, I mean, let's say you've gone through all of this. All these have been answered by your client. The last thing you really want to do is export the request. So you can do this into a doc file, docx, or a PDF. The rest of these are more made for developers. So we have like web designers and that kind of people using this system. For you guys, probably more PDF and docx. We can include the instructions, but for most people that don't really want, you don't really want the images and any like lengthy instructions you've provided in the final data that you export. We want to include the attachments, and you can either keep the original attachment file name, or you can get it to rename to whatever the question name is. So, if you've got clients, uploading strange named files, you can actually get this to rename it automatically. Now, another feature that was literally added today is the ability to export to various online systems. So we've got Google Drive, Dropbox, SharePoint, and OneDrive are the 4 at the moment. We will be adding more. I guess I can go into integrations a little bit later if we've got more time, but yeah, this is brand new. You can do 2 things. You can do this export to Google Drive, or you can actually have it every single time that you approve a file, or as soon as they upload a file, even, you can choose these options and just have it upload directly to your Google Drive straight away. So totally up to you how you want that to work, but I'm just going to download to this computer so I can show you what it looks like. Hopefully there's not too many files there, but yeah, it just dumps it all in one little, what's that thing, box like this. So it gives us the PDF, which, there's the basic information, and here's all the questions that they've answered as they go through. Obviously, we didn't answer any of these, so it just says no answer given. But if we then look at, where's that box gone? So it's also exported all the files that they uploaded, and it does that into pages. So we only have that one documentation page there. If we had files uploaded to this company information page, we'd have another folder there. So it just breaks up the files so you know where they were uploaded to. And like I said, you can push this information into your online storage as well if you like. And when you're done, yeah, Simon?
Yeah, no, if you just finish that bit off, and then I've got some questions that.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much it at this point. Okay. So once it's all submitted, you mark this as complete, or you can archive it. So if I just mark all of these as submitted now, it's probably going to take a while because there's a lot of questions there. But or am I going to have a bug live? There we go. Looks like we do. Oh, no, there it is. It was just taking a while. So now if we approve it all, yeah, there's a lot of questions for it to go through there and submit everything. So it's taking a little bit, but yeah, like once we're done there, all we do is mark this as complete. Yeah, there it is. So once this is complete, that's off our books, but I don't want to do that just because it'll hide it from my dashboard for now. But yeah, that's it. So that's kind of the whole process from start to finish. The only other things I would really show you are how the integrations work, some other integrations we have, and how to set up reminders. So yeah, that's what I can get into if you like.
Brilliant, thank you. So we've got about 15 minutes left, but before we get to how people can take action and the investment, James, I've got a couple of questions. Marianne, sure. I think James answered your question after you asked the question. So if you need an answer, still need an answer to your question, then please feel free to ask it again. Otherwise, I'm not going to go over that one. Emily Ingman's asked, how secure is the storage we use to collect ID documents, etc., passports, driving licenses? So how secure is the storage?
Right. So that's kind of what's detailed in that document I was showing you before. So everything's stored in Amazon Web Services currently in the US. And, we have several layers in place. Like it's basically industry standard. We encrypt everything, and it's over HTTPS. So it's encrypted in transit as well. And yeah, I mean, like I said, we don't really share intricate details because that would reduce the security by doing that. But yeah, so, and like I said, we plan on applying for ISO 27001. It's just a very long, tedious process, and we're not there yet.
Okay, thank you. Jill's asked, does each template count as one request? Can you send more than one template in a request?
I'm just not fully certain there. So one of these is a request, right? So one of those forms we just built. So yeah, it's got like, it could have 50 questions in it. That's still one request. The template, which is, if we save this, one of these, what I didn't show you there is like, let's say, was it this one we just did? So if I save this one as a template, let's just say it's like our, I don't know, client, like my client onboarding. That template now lives sort of separate to this request itself. A template doesn't count for anything. You can have as many templates as you like. So next time we go to create a request, so we're going to send an onboarding form to our next client. There's the one we just saved, right? So we can pull that in straight away to our next client. These templates don't, they're not part of the pricing at all. It's really these items here, we call them a request, and a request can be made up of any number of questions and files. Does that answer the question?
It does. That's yeah. So from my perspective, Jill, I don't know whether if it put my perspective on it from an accountancy point of view, I would want a template for tax returns, one for VAT returns, one for onboarding, for argument's sake, and each one of those, when it's used, is a request. But you can have as many as those different templates as you want. So if I'm onboarding a client for the first time and I'm doing their tax return, I'd probably send two requests: the onboarding template and the tax return template as well. Is that right, James?
Yes, and that would be two requests. So it is, they would be separate requests. I mean, typically what I would do in those cases is probably try and combine them as one request. So you can, I didn't really dig into it too much, but inside these, you can save like any piece as a template as well. So like just this documentation page, you could save this, just this page as a template. Or you could save, look, if we go back to company info, we've got these questions here. We could save this section as a template. So you can essentially create building blocks. So what you might do is have your general onboarding form. And then if you have another page that is all the stuff you need for the, I don't know, their tax return, you might just add a page from an existing template and then drop that in and away you go. So you can kind of create building blocks essentially of templates.
Thank you. And I think, Marianne, he's answered your question. James has answered your question again as you answered it. So can you merge templates into one request? The answer to that is yes.
Yeah, so sort of. Right now it's page by page, but that's actually a good point. Like to be able to actually dump two full templates together, I might take a note of that, because that is something I imagine it wouldn't be too hard to build. And I can see how that would be helpful for this situation. So I'll put that on our feature request list as soon as we're done here.
Okay. Jonathan's asked, how likely is it the client emails go into spam?
Oh, right. I thought you were going to say how likely is it that they just email you anyway. So, I mean, pretty unlikely. We monitor everything constantly. So we, I mean, you can see just while I've been here, I don't really want to show my whole inbox on the screen, but I kind of accidentally did it before. But yeah, all these emails that it's been sending right now have been showing up in my inbox. Look, it can happen. A lot of the times it depends on, because you can control the email text, right? You've got to be careful not to put, certain words in there. Like spam traps tend to,
free offer,
free,
all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So that can affect it, but we generally monitor all of our sending. We use a service called Postmark to send our emails, and they are just ruthless with spam. So they protect us a lot just in their own right. However, very soon we're actually, well, not very soon, we're starting work on the feature to allow you to send emails through your own domain rather than from ours. So right now the emails come from us, actually. So I'll just show you. So here's that's the rejection email there. So we have a comment on one of your answers. This one doesn't have a design, and this one was intentionally just sent out as a plain email template. You can see here it comes from do not reply content center-mail.com. However, what we do in the back end, it's hidden here. We set what's called a reply to header. So if I reply to this message, see it's actually replying to me, like the account email, rather than that do not reply email. So there's just some trickery we do in the back end that, so while that's there, they'll actually see just that, which is your company name. And when they reply, they'll see the company name there, hopefully. But yeah, you'll be able to send emails from your own domain soon.
Thank you, James. So let's talk about price then, James. There's a couple more questions in the back, but let's talk about price and how people can get in touch. What's the investment?
I'll pull up our pricing page, which is slightly changing shortly, but I'll let you know what the new ones are. So this is our current pricing. We've got $29 a month for 20 active requests. So you've kind of learned what an active request is at this point. 69 for 100. So what's changing is there's going to be a middle plan here, which is 50 requests for a little bit less than this. And this plan is going to go slightly more. And that one's not actually, I think. Let me have a look if I can. Let's see if the new pricing is actually going to show up for me. Here it is. So this will be active. If people want to jump on those old plans, basically in the next 4 days is within these new plans come into effect. You can grab those now. If you're on one of those plans in the next 4 days, you lock it in. This is the new levels here. So 20 active requests, 50 active requests, and 100. And they're the price. That's in US dollars. We often go above this. So if you're a larger firm with many requests, just let us know. How to get in contact with us, that chat icon right there. It's pretty much on every page of the website. You can send us a message. You can also, if you want to email me directly, james@contentsnare.com, that's cool. That'll come to me. But yeah, this is the easiest way. I mean, I'll just cancel this because that's in my drafts. That's how I was showing you the new page there. It's just because it's edited, ready to go live in a few days. But yeah, so there's the homepage, there's that chat icon, right? But also, yeah, there's a contact form down the bottom. If you want to sign up for a trial, you just hit this button here, sign up. Your pretty standard sign up process. Once you're in, that chat icon will also be in the bottom right hand corner of all pages of the app. You might have seen it here. So you can get to us there. We're always available. Sorry, not always available as in like 24/7, but you can get us at any time just by clicking there and typing and asking us a question. If you want to sign up, you come up here, go to settings, go to upgrade, and this is where you choose your plan. And for you guys, we've got a deal it's code TAM. Let's see if this actually works. If I click sign up, because this is a demo account, I don't know if it's there. Yeah, you can click this apply coupon and type in TAM, and that'll give you 50% off for 3 months. My memory's being tested lots here.
Excellent. So anybody that's watching this, and Mark has just popped all the contact details, the URL for the code for the website, and the code, and James's contact details on Twitter and LinkedIn in the chat box as well. So you just click on the links and away you go. And obviously, if you register and use the code TAM, you'll get 50% off for the first 3 months. That's brilliant, James. Thank you very much for that.
Hey, would you like me to show you just very quickly how the reminders work?
That would be really good. We've got 6 minutes left. I've got 3.
I'll be really quick on this one. It's just the main thing that's probably worth showing that we haven't shown yet. So first thing, these are all the email templates that we've got built in, and now you can create SMS templates. So let's just look at this like standard reminder here. So we're just crafting an email that says, hey, reminder to subject, reminder to provide information for this request name. And then we've got placeholders, right? So you use this option here and you can say things like what % complete it is and how many days are remaining. So you can say you are 30% complete and there's 3 days remaining. You can put all that kind of stuff in the email. So once you're done creating your emails, these ones are all in there by default, so you can modify them. You create a schedule, and you might have different email schedules for different processes. So an onboarding schedule, you create a new one. You might have an end of year tax one. You might have a business one. You might have an individuals one, blah, blah, blah. Create as many schedules as you want. This looks really complicated, but it's not. Just read it left to right. So it's just a bunch of rules. So 5 days after we've published the requests, if no fields have been completed yet, we're going to send an email called not started to the client at this time. That's really it. It's just a lot of rules like that. We can change that over to send an SMS instead of an email. And then down here, these are non-time based emails. So this is when we first publish the request. This is the email we're going to send to them. So you can modify that email as well. When a field's rejected, we send this email. So you can modify that one. And you can do some other cool stuff like, when all fields are completed, we might want to send a thank you email to the client once they've finished everything. Or you could send reminders to yourself as well. So you could say when, 2 days before the due date, if nothing is completed yet, send an email to myself, basically, just so you're on top of things. So that's reminders in a nutshell. Obviously ran through that really quick, but I think you'll be able to work it out once you're in there. Do we have some questions, Simon?
Brilliant. Yeah. So Simon had a question about the SMS, and this might be important for other people, Simon, that didn't just see that, but the text messages, the SMSs, can you set you can set the time that they go. So rather than them going at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can send them at 10 o'clock in the morning or whatever time you like.
Correct. Yeah. So you saw that final step there was to set what time it is. And that's all relative to your time zone, to the client's time zone. So if you've got a client in a different time zone, you can actually set that client's time zone and it'll go relative to them.
Thank you. Caroline, I can see the benefit of having one system for everything for the client, as ours don't like having multiple portals. But what about the issue at our end where we have a different system for different kinds of work? Well, I'll answer that, James, if I can, because I think since that question, Caroline, James has showed you where you can export the documents and then you'll be able to import. So for us, for example, we would turn them into a online document management system. So you can move them and put them where you like. Manav's asked, can you import client basic information into the software, or is it a manual process added each client each time?
Yeah. Okay. So what was that first question? I know you kind of answered it, but
sorry, what Carolyn was saying was when she has multiple systems where the documentation needs to go her side.
Yeah.
So at the moment, the client's got multiple systems, but it works her end, which is obviously a disadvantage to the client and therefore a reason of friction for them not to use it.
Yeah, and so I get that. It's obviously it's another system that you might have in your business, but we've tried to be really specific on what we're doing here. We're not trying to pretend to be these other tools like storage and whatever. We want to just make this process painless and be really good at just this thing and allow you to push that data into your other systems. That is the plan. That other question about importing client data. So not directly yet. We're planning on some integrations for this, like to pull from CRMs or from, Xero Practice Manager. If there's anyone using, I don't know how big Xero is in the UK, but it's massive here. Obviously QuickBooks in the US. So we do plan on building these integrations. Right now, we do have Zapier integration. So if there's anyone listening that knows how to use Zapier, you can get kind of tricky with this. And you could say, I can basically link you to a help article on how to do exactly this. So you can kind of make a fake import by saying in Zapier, every time I add a client to my spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet or Office 365 spreadsheet, add a client to Content Snare, and then you just paste all your clients in there and Zapier will just dump them all into Content Snare. So it's kind of I use this process to any system that doesn't have an import, but just know we are working on client import. This has come up a lot lately, so it's right on top of our list. Oh, sorry, one thing I didn't mention that we're also building is a table field. You might not have seen that there. So this has been really popular with bookkeepers and accountants. We're going to build the ability for a client to fill out a table, paste information in there. It's going to come in handy for monthly queries. And eventually we may even be able to pull uncategorized transactions from things like Xero into that table. That's the plan, loose plan at the moment.
Thank you. And then the final question, I'm just conscious it's 10:30, James, but the final question from Jill. Sorry if I missed it earlier. Lots of information. Are there branding options?
No, that is, I'm talking a lot about our future on this call, but that is our absolute number one request at the moment. So right now you can basically put your logo in the request instructions. That's what people do. The plan is to allow setting your own domain. So it doesn't even say contentsnare.com in the domain. You'll be able to send email from your own domain and some basic color changes. So we're very wary of allowing too many changes to the client-facing interface because, like I was saying, a lot of research, testing, development goes into that to make it easier to use. And if you start kind of messing with it, it can cause issues. And if clients aren't going to use it, then that doesn't look good for us. Really, that's what we want, is to be easy to use for clients, so that obviously it sounds silly if we're only talking about colors and stuff, but if you've seen what colors people pick, sometimes you'll understand.
Yeah, without being rude, obviously. So,
yeah.
So all of the communication can be branded as it stands, and the domain name is coming from an email perspective.
Yeah, it's basically standard white labeling, domain, email, and basically be able to remove our branding from everything and customize some of the colors.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you, James. That ties up all of the questions. So James's contact details are in the chat box. Mark kindly put them there earlier. So if you would like to get in touch with James, set up the demo, set up the trial, etc., then please click on the links and away we go. That just leaves me to say thank you very much for everybody coming along today and for asking the questions. James just disappeared before I've had a chance to say thank you to him. So
I thought that's what I was doing.
That's all right. That's all right, James. Thank you to everybody for coming along and asking the questions. As I always say, it's the questions that the members ask, that you ask when you come along, that make these events unique. And finally, James, just a very quick thank you to you for coming along and for sharing Content Snare with us today. I know that I certainly fired off lots of ideas as to how I might use it, we might use it in our accountancy practice. So thank you very much, James.
Brilliant, Simon. Thank you so much for having me.
And I will see you all again next time. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hey.
Cheers, James. Bye. Thank you for watching this video with James Rose from Content Snare, who shared how to get information from your clients on time, every time. Remember to hit the like button. If you've got any questions or comments, post them below and we'll gladly answer them for you. And please subscribe to the channel so you get notified the next time we upload a video. You might also want to watch the videos that we've got on the screen now to help inspire, challenge, and support you to run the best accountancy practice you can.